So we are officially recording now, and we'll give it just 1 minute. I do like to start, since all of you who made an effort to be here right at noon, we're going to start at 12:01 just to give a little buffer for anyone trying to get in. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and begin our session. And I'm going to ask Jeanne to introduce herself, and then we will have time for questions, or you can be putting questions into the chat, and I will be monitoring those.
Oh, Sarah, I did share the link. There's a Go link on here, but I shared it to you in the Google chat.
Great. I will share that out with everybody.
Yeah. And that way, if they want to put the stuff later in, they can. They can
Yep.
just copy and paste.
Will you send it again? It doesn't, I don't see it in chat.
It's in Google chat,
Oh,
not
in
in.
Google Chat. Sorry, I misunderstood. Okay, I will share that out in just a moment.
Okay,
We
sorry.
we have
I'm scared to touch anything
I
else.
I know, it's all right. Well, it is 12:01. Welcome everyone. We are glad you're here, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeanne McClure. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to be part of your lunch and sharing out some of the work. I'm really excited. I see some familiar faces here, so it's nice to see you. I'm Dr. Jeanne McClure, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher with the NC State Office of University Interdisciplinary Programs, specifically the Data Science and AI Academy. I'm actually going on 4 years there, not as a postdoc. I was a graduate student and now postdoc. I was lucky enough to stay there. But today we're talking about from calculators to collaborators. And this really is reflecting an important journey we're all witnessing really in real time, right? Just as calculators evolve from our simple computational tools to sophisticated problem solving devices. I mean, we all remember the TI-86. I think people are still using it. But AI is transformed from basic rule following systems into collaborative partners that can reason, create, and even anticipate our needs. So today we're really going to be exploring our four distinct generation of AI technology, each with unique capabilities and appropriate use cases. So let's get started. So before we dive into any of these technical details, let's really talk about why this matters for your daily work. Understanding AI generations really isn't just academic, it's intensely practical. When you know which generation of AI to use for which task, you really are reducing your risks associated with privacy, bias, and of course, accuracy. You're not trying to use a screwdriver as a hammer, right? The key principles here is really we're focused on speeding up existing workflows, not replacing expertise. And really today, when I'm kind of talking about all of this, I just want to stress you are the subject matter experts. So when we're talking about this, and if you don't see it, just know that this is really what we're talking about. You're the expert. AI is the accelerator. Our goal is to align tools with your specific organizational needs through simple manageable guardrails. So really, this is crucial in higher education, right? We're really balancing innovation with responsibility, academic integrity, and these really are compliance requirements. So today's session really is going to be, we're going to have, I kind of like to break it into modules. It's easier for me as an educator, right, to understand, to break things down, scaffold them. But we're going to focus on responsible AI, transparency, and data governance. Really the foundation everything else builds on. I really like to start with this first because I think that this is most important. We should always start with it and we should never have it on as an add-on. And then module 2 will explore AI evolution, 4 generations that I mentioned earlier, traditional, foundational, generative, and agentic. In module 3, we're really getting our hands on with prompting strategies using this ICI framework that really started from when I was doing my dissertation and has kind of evolved into kind of this Mad Libs template approach. And by the end, I hope you know some of the risks and guardrails. You can explain a little bit about the LLM strengths and limits and apply some structured prompting to your real tasks. All right, so let's get started with the foundation, responsible AI practices. And remember, this isn't optional. It's really essential for everything that follows. Data governance, why does it matter? Data governance protects both people and organizations through ethics, transparency, and accountability. It reduces risks like privacy breaches, biased outputs, and copyright violations, and it's critical. It helps you meet requirements like IRB protocols, FERPA, HIPAA, and institutional policies. So now you might be thinking, I'm not a governance expert, and that's okay. I'm not either. But we all are really data stewards. Every time we're using AI with institutional data, student information, or research content, you're really making governance decisions. And your role includes really these 5 key areas: transparency about AI use, security of data, ethical considerations, compliance with policies, and really this continuous learning as the landscapes evolve. And speaking of evolution, the governance landscape is changing really rapidly. The EU AI Act went into effect in 2024. The Council of Europe AI Treaty was established. We're seeing new state and university AI policies, adoptions of the NIST AI risk management framework, and ISO standards for AI management systems. So you don't need to be an expert in all of this, but you do need to be aware that these frameworks exist and are shaping how we use AI institutionally. So let's talk ethics. Some of you might be more experts in this than others. This diagram is really just a quick diagram, and it's showing some of the complex ecosystems of AI ethics, from technology capabilities to legal frameworks to what we should be done versus what can be done. So there's really 4 critical principles for ethical AI use. First, there's the accuracy and fact checking, which are paramount. AI can and does hallucinate. It sounds very convincing. It sounds really convincing sometimes. And it generates these confident but really false information. So always verify. Be aware of potential biases. AI systems learn from data. And if that data contains biases, the AI will too. Finally, we have, or not finally, but third, we have human in the helm. Oversight is very important. And please notice that I said human in the helm. I did not say human in the loop. You're not just catching errors, you're really steering the ship. So you're really the captain of using AI when you're using it. And fourth, access key resources for learning AI. This field changes monthly, daily, sometimes minute by minute. Stay curious and connected, and don't be afraid to say, I'm not really too sure about that. So really, we're setting these ground rules, right? We have ground rules that lets us establish this, how we're the subject matter expert, and that we can apply what we can apply to AI is in an interaction. So again, making sure we're always fact checking, always verifying our AI outputs, double check everything. Also, we're protecting data. It's super important that we're avoiding using sensitive data in public AI systems, prefer secure institutional options, also like Olama that you can put on your desktop. If you wouldn't put it in a public Google Doc and publish it, don't put it in ChatGPT's free version. Follow policies, ensuring compliance with relevant policies like FERPA, HIPAA, and your institutional guidelines. When in doubt, ask. Your IT security or your legal compliance office would much rather answer a question than clean up a breach. So these aren't just suggestions, they're really requirements for us to be using responsible AI, especially in higher education. So moving on, the AI evolution. Oh gosh, we're all seeing this, right? Every day there's something new in the news. They're coming out with new models. Some of us are like, the only AI we are thinking of is generative AI. So, but now that we've established some of these ethical foundations, let's really explore how AI has evolved, and more importantly, how different generations of AI serve different purposes in your work. So I don't know if you all just want to put in the chat, what do you think is AI? And if you're here, Sarah, maybe you could just share out a little bit of what people are saying. What is AI?
Yep. So one word that's come up is assistance. See if we have anyone else going to join in. Supplement, a collaborator. Those are some great words there.
Yeah, those are some great words. I've also heard some words like skeptical, a liar. So, and these are all really important words to be thinking about when we're thinking about what is AI. Um, and so, really, what is AI? AI is the artificial intelligence. It's the science of teaching machines to mimic intelligent human behaviors. AI is the systems are taught and trained using computer programming that learns and adapts. And of course, the term artificial intelligence was really coined in the 1956 at Dartmouth College 70 years ago, right? By Professor John McCarthy. So it has been around for quite a long time. And from teaching computers to recognize speech to teaching them to play, go at a master level, AI has expanded dramatically, really, in scope and capability. But not all AI is the same. And that's really what we need to understand. So, understanding AI generations, there's really, I'm putting it into four buckets. Maybe somebody else is putting them into something differently, and that's okay. But traditional AI really uses rule based systems, if then logic. Think of your email spam folder or a degree audit system. If it follows explicit rules, it's human programmed. One of the really interesting rule-based AI that we might have used, I don't know how old you all are, and so I'm going to say my age here, is Pac-Man. Pac-Man used a rule-based. So all my Atari friends, yep, we were using AI. Maybe that's why my mom wasn't making dinner. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, foundational AI uses machine learning models that analyze these data patterns. This powers recommendation engines, risk scoring systems, and pattern detection. It learns from data rather than following hard coded rules. This is really where we're thinking of natural language processing, machine learning. And we'll talk a little bit more about this a little bit later. And generative AI really is creating content like text and images. And this is really what we're thinking of now when people are talking about or saying the word AI or the letters. This is really ChatGPT, Claude, DALL-E, Midjourney. It can generate original content based on patterns it's learned. And now we have more of this agentic AI, where it's performing tasks semi-autonomously and interactively. It can plan multi-step workflows, call tools, and execute complex operations. And this is the newest and most sophisticated category. But each generation has distinct use cases. And so this Venn diagram, just to go a little bit more into detail, and I'd like to show this Venn diagram because it really gives people an idea of where each one of these AIs is sitting. So as we see, AI is really this broad generative, broad term. And within it has all these subcategories. And so it overlaps and intersects. So the large language models like LLMs and ChatGPT sit at really this intersection of these multiple areas: natural language processing, deep learning, and computer vision and multimodal models. Generative AI really emerged from this convergence. Agentic AI sits on top, representing the most advanced capabilities, combining multimodal foundation models with tool using capabilities, which some of us are hearing with MCP. So really, there's a couple of things that were happening here that really made generative AI come to life. It wasn't just the technologies here, but it was also the technologies like NVIDIA chips that were getting smaller and faster that really allowed for us to see these things happening. But understanding this ecosystem really can help you see why a tool like ChatGPT can do so many different things. It's drawing on these multiple AI capabilities and also the speed and function of the tools like NVIDIA chips simultaneously, but it also helps you understand the limitation. Just because a tool is powerful doesn't mean it's appropriate for every task. So, diving a little bit more, traditional AI rules and expert systems gives us clear rules, compliance checks, and deterministic logic. If you can write out the rules explicitly, such as if a student has 120 credits and a GPA above 2.0, then they're eligible to graduate. Traditional AI really will handle this perfectly. It's not good for fuzzy judgment calls or changing policies without human updating. Traditional AI can't adapt on its own. If policy changes, someone has to reprogram the rules. Examples in your work might be like attendance tracking systems, degree audit rules, simple rules based accessibility checkers, maybe even library loan period calculations. These systems are reliable, predictable, and transparent. And feel free, if you can think of other ones, feel free to just add them in the chat for other people to also learn from. Then we have more of our foundational AI, which we've been talking about. So this is really these data patterns. Foundational AI really lets us go beyond rules to pattern recognition. And it's really great for ranking results, powering recommendations, and detecting patterns in large data sets. Think of how your library search ranks results or how Netflix recommends movies. Um, is not really good for explaining why a recommendation is ethically appropriate or generating new content. Foundational AI finds patterns, it doesn't create, explain ethics. So maybe some examples might be like a ranking algorithm or student risk prediction models that are using those machine learning or TensorFlow models, recommendation widgets on your LMS, or even enrollment forecasting systems. These systems really learn from historical data to make predictions or rankings. They're powerful, but can perpetuate really historical biases if we're not careful. And really, when we're talking about generative AI, this is what people, like I said, mostly are thinking about when they hear AI. And it's really great for first drafts, generating multiple versions, creating code snippets, and brainstorming. Generative AI excels at creating content from scratch based on patterns it's learned. It's not really good for assessing your SIS or LMS directly. It has no direct database connections. And I'm talking about the original generative AI because now we do have some database connections, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Um, or making high stakes decisions without human review. Um, and so examples might be drafting emails to faculty or students, creating courses, a course module outlines, generating code snippets for data analysis, maybe brainstorming research questions or summarizing long documents. Generative AI really can be your creative collaborator for iteration, not your final decision maker. Remember, you're the subject matter expert. Use it to generate options, then apply your expertise to select, and then maybe refine, and of course, validate, validate, validate. A colleague of mine says AI is like having a very eager intern who's read everything but has no judgment. That's really about the right thing for generative AI. Now we have agentic AI where we're planning and executing tasks. And so this is really this cutting edge of really these multi-step tasks happening. And it's really great for these multi-step workflows, calling multiple tools in sequence, and orchestrating complex processes. Imagine an AI that can research a topic, compare sources, generate a summary, create visualizations, format everything, and then email it out to the correct people, all from one request. It's not good for unsupervised autopilot or making value-based decisions about who gets funding, grades, or opportunities. We're seeing it, especially if you use Microsoft Copilot or in the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem. There's a lot with like a research assistant that can search multiple databases, synthesize findings, and generate annotated bibliographies. You can also see it for using advising assistants that can check degree requirements, identifying missing courses, and suggest schedules. I was just at a panel last night, and one of the organizers created a chatbot that does something similar to this for a college, and it actually puts together course list for the next semester based on a student. So the student goes in there and kind of gives them all this information, and then it pulls it together from other databases about the specific academic degree. So, and then it tells them how many more courses they need, etc. Um, the the data, and then also we can see this being used for data analysis pipelines that clean data, run analysis, and generate reports. So we're really just beginning to see the beginnings of this agentic AI in practice. And really, I'm thinking within 2 to 3 years, many of your repetitive multi-step tasks could be delegated to these agentic systems with, of course, appropriate oversight. And so when I was talking about earlier, there's a difference between our Gen AI, ChatGPT 1.0 compared to today, or even Claude. If you have Claude Pro, you can connect MCP servers. Like I have Claude Pro. I connect sometimes Canva, that is an artistic kind of brainstorming where I can create slides real quick just from putting in one prompt into Claude. And it'll give me 4 Canva slideshows. And so again, that's why I'm saying there's some of these things are incorporated now into ChatGPT, Claude, and even Gemini, but these are usually on the paid versions. And also you have to make sure that you're having oversight. Yeah, so exciting times. So again, I know I was talking a little bit about when we were talking about I'm blanking on the game, Pac-Man. But I wanted to give this like little historical context here. This timeline shows like how we kind of got here. Traditional AI dominated in the 1960s through the early 1990s. Then we really have like this foundational machine learning that emerged in the 1980s and matured through the early 2010. Think of Netflix recommendation, Pandora recommendations, those kind of things. Those were really happening with the at that time. And then we had deep learning, which really was a breakthrough happening in 2010 with neural networks. And I don't know if you know this, but the first artificial neural network was invented in the 1940s during World War II. But anyway, these are just little tidbits. Foundational models and generative AI exploded really from the late 2010s to present. GPT-3, DALL-E, ChatGPT. We have multimodal, agentic, and tool using AI happening right now, and really will define 2025 and beyond. So the acceleration happened really, I think, pretty fast after we were able to get the speed within our compute. And it's really, to me, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. The gap between generations is shrinking, and that's why staying informed really does matter. So how do these 4 generations really are fitting into our daily work? Again, I talked about these before. Traditional really is the fixed rules, and we're seeing this with attendance systems, your degree audit software, accessibility checkers you use. Foundational is really more about ranking, your library search results, recommendation widgets in your LMS, Netflix suggestions. And foundational, again, is drafting emails, creating course outlines. And isn't that, not, that's little overlap with generative AI. And then, of course, we have the agentic, which we already talked about with virtual advising assistants and research helpers. And so I guess the key point really is you're already using multiple generations of AI, often without realizing it. I believe they're doing a lot with the mapping system at Google, which is really changing in a way as well. All right, so understanding our assistants. So when we're talking about our assistants, we have all these different assistants. So we have like our chat interface. So the chat interface is really what we're talking about today. And we have our conversational tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or Poe, and even Llama. And the model runs in a conversational wrapper, and the interface handles prompting, memory formatting automatically. And this is what you most probably use or are aware of. Then we, of course, have our notebook embedded assistants. And for those that are using coding tools like Python or R, you can do them in Google Colab with Gemini, and this is already attached. You don't have to add Gemini into Colab. It acts similar to Jupyter Notebook, but with AI assistance. The model runs inside. It's an active coding environment. It has access to your code, your data, and can execute operations inline. I actually noticed it's changed a little bit. A couple months ago, it used to be inline. Now it has a pop-up assistant that kind of talks to, and you can say accept or decline on the code. Then we have, for those who are familiar with R, and it's changed to Posit. And now they have a new IDE called Positron. And tools like GitHub Copilot, Cursor, or Positron really have these AI features where you can provide inline code suggestions, cell explanations, conversational debugging right in the console. But those ones you do have to connect the assistant that you want to use. I typically connect Llama only because it's free and you don't have to pay for any tokens. And really, why does this matter? Because the interface shapes what AI can do. Chat interfaces are great for ideation and drafting. Notebook assistants excel at data analysis. And it's really exciting with the inclusion of the IDE assistants. It speeds up coding. You're not copying your code, looking for a usually, like for me, I'm looking for a period or a space because my code's not running and I just added something. And it, normally if you are doing programming or coding, the pain of looking through the code and it's just like some kind of syntax that you add or a space or something. So this is really exciting. Um, Again, so I have broken this down like what we have for traditional rule-based automation logic. Here are some of the tools that you might want to use. Excel with macros, R-based functions, Python if-else statements, Tableau, calculated fields, SAS programming. When we're talking about foundational AI like scikit-learn and Python, tidy models, these are machine learning packages that you're using. Power BI also, I think Tableau now has some of these right in it. SAS Via, Auto ML platforms, Google BigQuery ML. So these are just some of the tools that you might want to use if you're using these types of AI. Generative AI, of course, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Google Colab, with Gemini extension, Positron, etc. And agentic tools. This is what I was talking about a little bit more. ChatGPT has some function calling. It has like a plus. If you have the paid version, that should have a plus. And when you click on it, you can like go to the agent. Claude has Model Context Protocol, MCP. We're hearing this everywhere. And this is where you can connect tools like Canva, HubSpot. If you have if you're an entrepreneur and you have Stripe, you can connect that. You can connect some other things. LangChain frameworks. We have Olama with LangGraph, tools like Elmer, Chatlist, these are in Positron, and this is how it connects either for R or Python, depending on which tool you're using in Positron. Crew AI is what helps us develop agents. It's one of those packages, Gemini 1.5 with Actions and Colab. So you don't need all these. I'm just giving you some idea about what the landscape is of these tools. And if you wanted to try them or choose them, think about it strategically. All right, so model comparison table. We kind of went over this. I'm going to skip it. Feel free to go back to it to kind of look at it. This is my interpretation of why I like it. I can tell you that if I want to design a image, and if you are on LinkedIn, I took an image that Sarah shared for today's event and I turned it into a sketch. I used Gemini for that. I love Gemini the best for any type of images. I just think they have the best. But that's just my own thing. For ChatGPT, I really like to use, especially for tone in emails. That seems to be my go-to. Claude, I use a lot of coding with that one, but now I have it connected right to my Positron if I'm not using Olama. All right. So while we're here today, prompting, and we're really thinking about prompting for better results. And so I love this. I love this image. It just really speaks volumes to me when you look at it. And so on the left-hand side, I think this is where a lot of us were at, right? Prompt and pray that you're going to get something. Throw it at the wall and hopefully it'll stick. Like we're really hoping for the best, but we really get frustrated with the results and we're trying to go back in and prompt and redo the prompt and again with any of these slight modifications. I like to call this prompt spaghetti. Um, but now really what I'm really here to talk to you a little bit more about is this systematic prompt engineering. So you follow a structured format, you get predictable results, can reproduce those results and iterate strategically. And really share those templates with colleagues so that they can also have a similar situation as you. So, I don't know which sounds better to you, prompt and pray or a more strategic approach. And so most people do start with prompt and pray, and that's fine for learning. But really, for professional work, especially work that matters and your time matters, we really want more of a systematic approach. All right, so the good thing is that multiple organizations have developed prompting frameworks. I'm not going to go through all these. You can go back and look at them. And if these work for you, that is wonderful. You should use them. I am sharing them as a resource, but today I'm going to teach you about a framework I developed called ICI, along with some team members at NC State. And it's been I've worked with different people since 2022. And so it's been great to work with them and kind of evolve it as things are evolving. And I like it because it's simple, memorable, and effective across many of the AI generations. So here's the ICI framework. There's three components, and it's not always in this order. It doesn't have to be in this order. And it's really more of this evidence-based framework that we kind of developed. And I can definitely tell you it started off as prompt spaghetti, and I started building it because I was trying to solve for my dissertation, I was developing an automatic classifier that would identify students' cognitive engagement in their open-ended answers. We only had about 800 observations, which is too low to create a traditional machine learning model. And so we were able to really do this with LLMs, again, in 2022. So it was pretty novel at the time. And so the person, Machi Shimmer and I were really kind of developing it then. And so anyway, instruction. This is really what you want the AI to do. You use imperative verbs like summarize, explain, etc. Summarize these findings, generate a list, act as a data scientist, be specific about the task and the output format. Context, this is the situation, the role, parameters the AI needs to follow. This is where you set tone, constraints, style, and audience. So you assume the role of a research librarian writing to the faculty. And finally, we have input, the data, files, code, or specific information that AI needs to process. So this could be like the following paragraph you wanted to look at, a data set you uploaded, or the table you've included. Really, the key insight is that structure creates consistency. When you separate instruction from context, from the input, the AI understands your request more clearly, and you can systematically improve your prompts by adjusting one component at a time. Think about it as like some type of scaffolding. But of course, we need to be adding linguistic principles, using imperative verbs, as I mentioned before, suggest, explain, analyze, and domain-specific language. All right. So I love Mad Libs. And so this kind of has evolved to kind of a Mad Lib prompting framework. And so this is just an example. I work really in the data science education space. And so we have a group of us that are working on how we can help education teachers in data science work with their students. And of course, it depends on their level of when we would introduce this. But on the left-hand side, you see more of this fillable placeholders, role, data set type, record, count. I have them color-coded by context, input, and instruction. And then on the right-hand side, you see the completed prompt that shows what you would put into the assistant, the AI assistant. And for this, we're really talking about maybe the free version of ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. We're not really talking about Notebook LM here today. That could be a totally different assessment. And so feel free to, you should have a link to the slides. Feel free to go to your favorite AI assistant and put it in just to keep us on track. I'm just going to keep going. And hopefully we can do at least one and put something in there. So for these other fillable, I want you to think about yourself. Like, think about what is one thing you're doing that's repeatable. And so when I think about all of us, we're always creating high quality email templates. So here on the left-hand side, you'll see there's like this based on the ICI framework. And again, remember I said it doesn't have to be in order. And so here I kind of kept it as context, input, instruction, and that's just how I like to put it into the model. When I'm designing these templates, I have it spaced as ICI for a whole nother reason. But on the left-hand side, you'll see the fillable is asking you to specify a role, an audience, a communication goal, a desired tone, key points, and constraints. And then on the right-hand side, I kind of created a completed prompt. And again, feel free to go ahead and put this into ChatGPT or to Gemini or to Claude, whatever your preferred is. And you might even see that it's going to give you different results. And each model does do that. And even within the model, you're going to get sometimes very different results. And anyway, so again, on the right-hand side, I had act as a researcher to a faculty member about accessing open source US Census data sets. The goal is to share recommended sources and offer consultation support. And so you're going to see how I have it broken down with the input and then, of course, with the instruction. So again, we're having, this should be producing emails that are closer to on point, professional, and saves you significant time. And hopefully with the template, you can also change out some of those, the Mad Lib portions and share them with your students. If you're advising students, you could have student in your advisement say, if you're going to email me, please use this template to email me. If you need help in ChatGPT, you could throw it into ChatGPT to help you give a better assessment so that when you, the advisor, get an email from your student, you know exactly what they're asking for. Yeah. And then also I made another one, which I think that we all need to be thinking about is our weekly planning. And so sometimes we get very overwhelmed with all of the things that we need to do. And again, on the left-hand side, you see more of this Mad Libs kind of fill in template. And so this could be for professional, it could be for personal. If you even wanted to kind of take this and tweak it, maybe it would be something about if you have children who are picky eaters, you want to throw in something like, this is all the ingredients I have in my cabinet. And I even believe that you could probably take a picture of your cabinet and then put that in there, use the picture and help me create a recipe for my picky eater who doesn't like blah, 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 blah. And again, you'll see how you can kind of do that with the instruction here. But you'll see on the right-hand side, I have it more completed. You're a STEM educator or program coordinator, etc. And you're filling in so that it is appropriate for you and your needs. All right. And then finally, I created a template builder so that you can take this and then build your own template. And so on here, the slide shows like the before and after. And so the generic prompt structure versus like a filled in example on the left-hand side, it's telling you what you need to have. Of course, please feel free to take this and refine it. If you want to put it in a Google Doc, etc. And then on the right-hand side, I'm just giving you like a quick example. And so maybe you don't want to do the template approach. This would be like an approach for you just to go ahead and create your prompt without that template approach. The template approach is like if you want to just use fill-in. And then again, I gave you another kind of template where you can actually build it out. And if we had more time, I like to do this in a workshop style. Usually it's about 2.5 hours. And so anyway, if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out. And then, yeah, so those are the different ways to go ahead and prompt. I was mentioning that in like Notebook LM, if you're using that, if you don't know what that is, that's a Gemini product. And that's really interesting because that is using a little more agentic frameworks. It actually uses like a RAG, it uses more context. You upload different files. You can connect your Google Drive with a folder in it and just have it come over. If you have YouTube links, you can add those YouTube links into there. And so it's going to answer questions about what you uploaded. If you're not familiar with retrieval augmented generation or what that term is, at the end of the slides, I did give a vocabulary bank of a bunch of different terms that are being used today. I didn't use all of them here, but I did want you to have it because they are being thrown around so you'll be able to have that information. So the last thing that I wanted to do was as your take-home assignment, I want you to think about if you could automate or augment just one thing this week, what would it be and how would you phrase it? And please feel free to use the prompt template to go ahead and automate and make your life a little bit easier. And again, remember, you are the subject matter. We shouldn't be putting in something that you have no idea about and you're trying to learn. Again, Notebook LM might be something different where you could probably put some information in and get like a summarization. I think it also does like a podcast. It can also create a quiz. It can create slides, question, answer, flip cards. Anyway, that's another day, another workshop. And again, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. And again, here is the buzzwords that we're all hearing if you want to look at those on another day. And thank you again for having me. I would love to hear any questions. I'm not sure how much time we have. I'm sorry, that was a lot.
No, that was fantastic. Thanks, Jeanne. We have about 10 minutes before we wrap up. Well, we see lots of clapping. Does anyone have any question or a comment that you would like to share? I see some yes, that was great. I always like to know a little bit about frameworks. How were the conversations or your brainstorming around earlier iterations of it? How did you get to ICI? Like, what were some other ones that you played around with?
So there really weren't any frameworks for prompt. I mean, well, so there was like, you know, chain of thought, like this is what we were in context. Okay, let me back up. I had to like talk out loud to get my brain going, I guess. I had to search through my own RAG system here to pull out what I have. So, yeah, so in 2022, what was really when the first GPT models were coming out.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking about, I was working in the API
Right.
where I was pulling it in. And there was like the early edition, I think, of ChatGPT that was out there. But and it also had a playground. And so there was a lot of papers on in context learning. And I feel like that's where we're kind of coming back to when we're talking about a context engineering and prompting. Prompting has evolved to context engineering, but the framework, it really was like, all right, let's put in this we'll put some context in, and then let's do chain of thought. We'll put in steps below it. Then let's have it think about what we just said. And so it wasn't like a real framework. And it wasn't until I was starting to kind of put it together of how I was putting it into the system I was trying to make sure I wasn't spending a lot of tokens. So using just a subset of the data, because the longer the prompt, the more tokens it used, because each one of your words is being used as a token, or sometimes if they're connected to tokens. um, and so I was really sketching this out as we were going along, and it just kind of evolved, and it really didn't evolve until about 2024 when I was asked to do a talk for the College of Education, and I had to like put it out how I did the pink, the green and the yellow, because it was really still new in 2024. When I was talking about AI, people were like, I'm not using that. Like that was pretty much I'm not using that. I'm never going to use that. That's not going to be in my, and any of my tools, which is so funny because now a year later, so many people are experts, right? And then there's lots of people that are still fresh using it or don't realize that they're using it. And my framework really, and then it was, can you come teach us about how to prompt? And so then it was like, all right. So then I did the ICI, and then it was like, all right, it needs to be more efficient. And so then I was thinking about like, how could I do it where people could just put in their stuff? And then it even evolved to me calling it Mad Lib just this month.
Nice. Thank you for walking us through that. I like the peek behind the curtain. Are there any other questions that people would like to share?
And feel free to reach out to me if you have other questions or thoughts on LinkedIn, or even through the email at NC State.
Great. I'll put your email into the chat also in case people just want to copy that.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. And you're all doing amazing things.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. I've put her email in the chat if you'd like to reach out and have other questions. But we appreciate you. Thanks for being part of the FLC, and we will see you again at the next one. And this will be posted in our YouTube playlist, as well as it will be highlighted in the newsletter for December. So if you know someone who should have been here, then you can share it out with them too. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Have a great day.
Okay, I'm going to stop.